stepped out of my comfort zone into a country that is probably one of the most restrictive in the world. And the reality of it is that it was intimidating, it was new, it was exciting, but I was shitting myself because I didn't know how to fit into that culture. But hundreds and hundreds of people on site, with maybe a few % of them that actually spoke English or English at all very well. The reality of it was that majority of my engineers or whatever that I was working with were also my interpreters to speak Arabic and to do all these things. And I went there and my roster was 10 weeks on, 2 weeks off. 9 months into that contract, I found myself crying in the corner of my cabin, just wondering, what the fuck have I got myself into? Where am I? What am I doing? And why am I feeling the way I'm feeling? I didn't know what was going on.
Welcome to the Beers with a Miner podcast. My name is Mad Mumzie and I've been driving the huge dump trucks in Australian open cut mines for over 10 years now. I wish I had $1 for everyone who said to me, "How does a little thing like you drive those big trucks? Oh, you must be rich. How do I get a job doing that?" My mining friends are asked these questions all the time too. This is what started the Mad Mumzie journey to share stories and tips from living a mining lifestyle and to let others know what it's really like. Tune in each episode as I sit down for a relaxed chat, usually over a few beers, with a fellow miner. Women and blokes with various experience, roles and opinions share their lessons and stories with you. Not everyone is cut out to be a miner, but why not? What does it take to thrive and survive in this industry? Now, let's dig in. Get it? Dig? Mining? Oh, crack me up. Hello and welcome to episode 74 of the Beers with a Miner podcast. My name is Mad Mumzie. And before we dive into this episode, this happy hour episode with Paul Smith, I just want to start with a bit of an update by saying Happy New Year. It's 2021 and it's actually nearly the middle of February. Like, wait, what? Happy New Year, Mad Mumzie. Where you been? You're missing out. I just felt the need to reach out and say something. And if you're listening to this in the future, well, you haven't missed a beat. But I have had a few people messaging me and asking if I'm still doing the podcast and also if I'm okay. 2020 was a pretty crazy year for all of us, and we thought that for some reason, well, I did, and they kept saying 2021, it'll all be different. Well, nothing much has changed really. We're still living in a COVID world, and we're very lucky to be here in Australia, a lot better off than many places, but we're still having our own challenges. Just last week, WA had a scare and all their Fifo workers were, many of them, stuck out on site. The challenges of that, as well as what is going to happen now with this outbreak for them. But luckily, it seems like it had been nipped in the bud, and by locking the state down, they were able to see what was going on, and it looks like they've got through. However, you can never tell in this new crazy COVID world, but it was really good to see everyone sticking together and trying to support each other, and encouragement to keep those boots on that are going to help you and your family get through these times. I know it sucks if you had to stay on site when it was your fly out day, which I know happened to a few people very close to me. And then it changed and they were allowed to come home. We just don't know. And it's very changing times, and we've just got to put our ease and flow boots on, I guess, and get through it the best we can. I wanted to share with you a few things that have been going on. I don't like the word, these are my excuses for not coming up with a podcast for you, but I will say I have 2 wonderful interviews that I've already done that I've just got to do all the rest of the bits with. The actual interviews, that's the easy part. It's the editing and all the post-production stuff and then getting it out there, which is something I love doing. And in fact, it's a service I offer through my College Riverhouse Productions business. But it feels like that has been taking over a little bit lately, because if you know me and if you follow me on Facebook, you would know that I now have a brand new studio in a special place that my friend has set up here in central Queensland, and it's called Wellness Corner. It's in Marion in the old Chook shop, and a lot of you local miners in like heading out to the northern Bowen Basin area would drive past here a lot. I know I have over the years, many, many times. And I am also helping the practitioners that come in join their digital dots, which is what I do. It's my passion and I love it. So now, poor old Mad Mumzie lately has been put to the side whilst the techno nana in me comes out. But I'm here to let you know, I haven't gone away. We've just been on a bit of a delay. So we're back into it. I have this episode with Paul, and then I have another one coming up with a person who reached out to me on Instagram, Fifo Inspo, a cool dude who does videos from his donga, and we had a great chat as well. So that'll be episode 75. And then on Australia Day, I went down to my local pub and had a fantastic time there. They unveiled the big thongs. So if you ever go to Caelan in central Queensland, head in there, get your photo with the newly unveiled big thongs and the Walkabout Oz brand, which is also going to be someone I'm going to be working with very closely to help get the word out about that. My latest 5-star client, Notty. Hi, Notty. On that day, I had 3 people who were keen to come on the podcast. So we've got Whopper, Notty and Cole, who are all going to chat to us about their mining journey and lots of stories as well. So there's still plenty to come, and I'm looking forward to sharing that with you. The other thing that has happened is my kid's dad sadly passed away, and he's over in the UK, in London. And so there's all the logistics of getting him home and dealing with your kids' broken hearts. And we were together for 22 years, so my heart has been broken as well. And it comes in waves, you know, and I know many of us are dealing people who die, and our family has had a lot of those, and I certainly know that we're not special in that way. It happens to all of us. But we need to all stick together and be there for our family. And for me, family first, then everything else, which is why the main reason I've been missing in action. Anyway, let's get stuck into this episode with Paul. I hope you enjoyed it. It is a long one. But, you know, hey, podcast, we got time. Just hit pause and come back to it later. So he shares with us many wonderful stories and his passions about everything that he loves to share now about his FIFO journey. And, you know, why did he delay his first offer that he got to get a FIFO job? And he said, oh, hang on a minute. Can't do it yet. I just got to sort something out. What was that? And then he had planned to be doing this basically, you know, for a long time, but he was forced out. What happened after that? Keep listening. Great chat. Paul Smith, a wonderful friend and a great supporter of myself and Hard Hat Mentor, my sister, and especially for our new podcast, What Boots. What? You didn't know about that? Just search for What Boots in your favourite podcast app, and you can listen to me and my sister raving on about all sorts of things, not just mining. Anyway, that's enough from me. Let's dig in. Get it? Dig. Mining. Ha, ha, ha. I crack me up even in 2021. Cheers. In this happy hour episode, we're hanging out with Paul Smith, also known as the FIFO coach. we've connected on LinkedIn, I think, for the first time.
Yep.
Through Drewy, my sister, I believe. And we've lined up a few times where we were going to do a podcast or we were just going to have a chat, and then usually me has to cancel for whatever reason. And then you said yesterday or a couple of days ago, oh, well, let's do it. Well, I think I thought of it ages ago and then cancelled. But let's do a Facebook Live and just have a chat about what it is that you're doing now, because I wanted to help share the message and share the great things that you're doing with my peeps. And then I thought, well, why don't we just make it a podcast episode as well, which we've been trying to do as well. So here we are. Finally, welcome to the podcast, Paul Smith.
Pleasure to be here and finally to catch up and have a beer somewhat in person anyway. It's the new thing anyway, Zoom and StreamYard and Facebook Lives and catching up. So, no, it's really cool to actually sit down and have a yak as well. So thanks for having me.
Well, that's fine. And what about, like, what a year we've had, hey? 2020, Zoom. It's so funny that everyone's like, oh, Zoom. Like, you're probably like me. You've been on it for a couple of years now. You know all about Zoom. I was doing my interviews on Skype, but it used to drop out all the time. So then I've discovered Zoom, and you get the separate recording, this separate tracks of each person in the audio, which I'm not sure if I'm going to get from StreamYard, hence our double enders. So it just doesn't drop out as much, I found, and you had to have another app to make it work. And so Zoom it up. I just wish I'd bought shares in Zoom.
Oh, yeah, for
would have
sure.
been, well, already had them. You know, don't buy them when they're high, do you?
No.
All right.
That's the only one that worked for me as well, personally. So overseas, especially
Zoom.
So, Skype, and that was all banned and regulated, and it was nothing worked, to be honest.
Yeah, that's it. And then Zoom did up their security and everything, so that was good too, because of so many people being on it. Like, this is crazy, wasn't it? This is like nuts. Everyone on Zoom. All right, I went to buy a new TV. I just needed a little one, and they were sold out. You couldn't get them because people were working from home and everyone was setting up their little home office. So, because they were on Zoom. Hence, 2020, baby.
Hence what we now do.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's right. All right, let's get this show on the road. As this podcast is called the Beers with a Minor podcast, I like to start these happy hour episodes with my guests sharing their favourite beverage and also their favourite time to enjoy it. It could be a beer, wine, spirit, or perhaps even a cup of tea. What is yours, Paul?
Well, I've always been a beer lover. I'm not going to lie there. My favourite beer in general is a 150 Lashes Pale Ale. I've actually on the Smithies cans at the moment because they're pretty good value, I must admit, and they're not a bad drop. Bit of a namesake as well, so why not? But also a sneaky gin and tonic I'm not shy of either. So there we are.
A gin and tonic, did you say?
A gin and tonic.
Yes.
Always goes down very well. Story behind why as well.
I need a story. That's good. Yes.
So the story behind the gin and tonic was never a gin and tonic fan, but when I was working overseas where alcohol wasn't allowed but was accessible if you knew the right people, should we say, well, this particular distiller, shall we call him, was able to make his own gin and tonic, or gin, a pink gin, with a local flower from overseas. And I came quite accustomed to being able to have that because the homebrew beer was disgusting and it left you with a shocking headache. But as he was studying distillery and creating what he created in all different varieties, the gin and tonic, or the pink gin and tonic, was the weapon of choice over there. So that's how that began about 3.5 years ago. And ever since it's got better and better, I guess.
And do you have it with ice? Do you put ice in it as well?
Yeah. Definitely with ice. Yep.
Yeah, that's the go. Beautiful. Thanks for sharing that with us. All right. So you talk a lot about FIFO, and a lot of your branding is all around FIFO and how to make it work and not be so challenging is how, what can you do to succeed? When you say FIFO, does that mean you have to get on a plane? Or do you also mean people who do Dido, Bibo, CISO, HIHO, like people who are working away from home, generally in mining, construction? Is that where you're coming from, or definitely just on a plane?
It is. It's living away from home and working away from home for those extended period of times. And look, there's lots of CEOs and things around the world that actually relate to the message as well, because they're away from home for us, from a period of time. So whilst, because it's relatable to myself and what I've done, that FIFO and whatever we call it, I've done the Dido as well. So, but the long rosters, when you live at home and you still drive to work and you're still doing the 14 hours, 15 hours a day whilst the time you travel, it's still relatable to so many people. The message is the same. It's purely the fact that FIFO is really what it's known as, I guess, to the majority of people. Even though overseas people don't see it as FIFO necessarily, you have to explain it what that is. And when you explain it as that fly in, fly out, jump on a plane, go to work for a couple of weeks and come home sort of scenario, then they start to relate to what that message is about and being away from family and friends and isolated and all those sorts of things. So, yes, it's a big bubble of what it actually is.
Yeah, it seems to be that it's become an umbrella term for people that are doing that. You're packing up your shit, you're going away from your family or your pets or your garden, or like not everyone's got family, your friends, whatever it is, you're away, and then you're going into what? A donga for how long? Couple of weeks, couple of months, some people. Or it might be a flash motel if you're one of those big CEOs overseas. Can't say that I've had one of those on my podcast. But, yeah, okay, I'm just checking right from the start that we're on the same page about that. I was pretty sure that we were.
Yeah, no, it's definitely that overarching thing, but it's just, as we all know, people seem to know FIFO as mining.
Yeah. Yeah. And then as my blister, hard hat mentor, fellow steel cap sister, says, there's a lot of people in construction within mining as well. So there's a lot of people who are building railway camps or new mills or like all sorts. It's endless really, or new mines, new camps. So there's a lot of construction people within the mining industry.
And it's funny you say that, because all of my experience in mining has been from project mining infrastructure and those projects type. So building new mines, expansions of mines, all of those things. So I'm not technically a miner per se. I've always been in the project side of things. And when I was overseas, it was in construction. It wasn't even in mining, but it was, live away from home for 3 months at a time and come back for 2 weeks sort of thing. So that's, my story is different whilst working in a mining environment, not necessarily driving a dump truck or using a face shovel or whatever it might be. You're in around it, you're working in with it, but you're not part of it. So it is an interesting thought.
It is, yeah, that's right. And I've done a whole episode on what makes a real miner. I'll link to that in the show notes. So the show notes can be found for this episode at madmumzie.com/beers74, the number 74. And I'll share all the links to all the wonderful things that Paul's doing, and also that episode about what makes a real miner and any other wonderful things that we need to share as we go on. So just before we move on, do you know what CISO and HIHO are? Have you heard of those before?
I don't really understand that terminology, no. No, you let me tell me. It's interesting on that.
Are you ready? It's only because of someone that came on my podcast, and her husband worked on the oil rigs off WA, I think it was, and was away for like months at a time. And she actually wrote a book called Separated by Work. And
Yes.
that,
I've heard of that.
Kirsty O'Callaghan. So I shall share that also in the show notes. But CISO is ship in, ship out, and hi-ho, which is my favourite one, helicopter in, helicopter out.
Oh,
Hi-ho,
yes, right.
hi-ho, it's off to work we go. So I'd never heard of it either.
Doing that. And I've spoken to people do that, but I've never actually heard that acronym for it, to be honest. And yeah, there's lots of people in that oil and gas and do those sorts of things, and that's a whole new level, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know that I'd like to do that. I know my daughter would. She loves helicopters, but whether it was to go to work on an oil rig, I don't think so. Maybe fly over and have a look and come back.
Yeah.
So, I'm just going to, before we start about how you got into your FIFO journey, I just need to open another beer. How's yours going?
Yeah, we'll get through this
You
one
right?
for the next question.
All right. Well, I just need to make my most favourite sound in the world. I notice you're on a cans as well. It's ka-ch, ka-ch.
There it is.
There it is. That's my Rego.
It's a beer per question, is it?
It is. No, absolutely not. No way. Probably that will be my last one unless I need to see that Z. You can't just, well, I could. I probably will duck off and get another one if we go long. All right, Paul, how did you get started in FIFO?
There's a fairly in-depth bit of a twist to all of that. So let me give you a little bit of background on how that journey began. And I'm a carpenter by trade, so I left school and did that for, 16 years old. So I was a tradesman by the time I was 20. And that was great, building houses and, $1 million waterfront properties and all that amazing stuff. And as a kid, it was just sort of that mind blown, wow, look at these places we get to build. And it was, in that time, it was that thought process of building these places that people are investing so much into to create something for their family. And that's when I look back, that's where that sort of began. And it's like, wow. As I went through my own journey, and then I was married very early, kids early. My daughter just turned 18 last week, and my son's 22, and now a new relationship with 11-year-old twins. So but through that journey, through those 20s and being a subcontractor, and then the GST came in and I got myself into trouble with tax and all those things. I was still in the party, drugs and rock and roll sort of lifestyle and trying to work. And, I look back and see myself as a high functioning addict, to be honest, through that 20s. And
wow,
it got to a point where through separation, I was married to my first wife for 10 years, but we were married for 3 years, and it was quite rocky. We were separated for 3 years, and we got back together for a bit over 3 years. So altogether sort of a 10-year sort of 20s to 30s sort of mark. That was all a bit of a blur and a lot of messy times, good times and messy times, if that makes sense. But through that period, it was like, because all, child support and all these things came in, that subcontractor wage and that, that hit and miss of what was going on, I had to have something that was a bit more permanent. Now, a mate reached out at that time, probably my best mate, and said, look, I could probably offer you a job into the civil industry. I said, well, that's all well and good, but I won't pass the drug test, so I need to get back to you. I need to get back to you on that one. So sure enough,
give me a couple of months, mate.
Yeah, and it was, and that was the reality of it for me back then. And, it was just smoking a lot of pot. So that we know that takes a lot longer to get out of the system. So I made that choice there and then that I needed to do something different and make that change. And for the next 8 to 10 weeks, I self-tested every Friday. Would go to the chemist and buy the little pea in the jar thing that we all love so much. That was my first taste. That was my first taste, self-testing. So it was that to the point where I said, I'm ready. I can do this now, if that's still available. So I got rid of the whole subcontracting, building these beautiful homes and public works and hospitals and doing all this great stuff as a carpenter, and went back to filling sandbags as a labourer to get a start into the civil industry. And it was like, all right, if this is what I need to do, I can find a way to make it work. And it was that. And I went back to doing those things, and, you know, those shitty jobs that no one likes to do, the apprentice jobs that we you know, but I did it. And, you know, and it was great. And it got me a start with a company that I ended up staying with for 8 years. And through that, I was able to progress into that leading hand foreman type roles, and then, you know, running small crews, which then stepped me into what just so happened was a great chance. We were doing a huge upgrade of the coal handling facilities in Newcastle. So one of the biggest ports in Australia, so as we know. And we did a huge expansion that I ended up getting about 8 years worth of work out of there, and that sort of stepped me right through and running big crews and being able to, you know, I guess, prove my worth, I guess, in that role, and be able to, you know, get into that supervision type scenario. That all came to an end, and like you could see the writing on the wall. The project was coming to the end, and I was able to get I went and applied for a job. It was my time to leave that company on great terms. They were a great company, and got into the drive-in, drive-out. So the Hunter Valley area of Newcastle is a huge mining area. So some really big open-cut mines up there, and some underground mines as well, which I never experienced and I never want to. But getting into that, and again into the project works and the expansion works of all those things. That was my first experience into that, and then that slowly progressed into one of the supervisors or the guys I used to work with asking for an opportunity to come up to build one of the mines in Moranbah. So I won't name drop the mine. It's one of the newer ones, one of the bigger ones down there on the Peak Downs Highway, I guess it is, whatever it is.
Peak Downs Highway, the highway of death. Sadly,
yeah.
Shouldn't laugh. No, it needs help.
Yes.
Carry on. Sorry.
That was my first taste into the Fifo lifestyle, you know, and working on a 10 and 4 roster in the projects and doing that thing, then getting to supervise subcontractors essentially. So working for that, you know, that EPCM type contractor and managing subcontractors. So that was my first taste of it.
I have a question. EPCM, what does that mean?
So it's the engineering, procurement, contract management type side of things. So again, without name dropping, it's the company that comes and oversees and manages the whole construction side of it, whilst all the subcontractors do the work, if that makes sense.
Okay. Yes, so it does. Thank you.
Yes. So in the construction project side of thing, there's a lot of that goes on, of course. So one big company looks after the people that actually do the work. So got to work for that, and that was really good. I really enjoyed that, but again, it was challenging. I was single at that stage, and relationships here and there, and that side of it, I thought, well, this is great. It wasn't easy. It was different. It was new. It was exciting. It was, still that little bit of up and comer trying to prove his worth again, that he could still do something different and progress. And where would it take me? What could I get out of that? Obviously the money was better, and it was those opportunities that came with that. And it was my kickstart into it. Yeah.
So how long once you started? Thank you for sharing that, by the way. That's a journey. That's a big change from being a carpenter on big flash houses and hospitals to hanging out at Newcastle and the Hunter and Moranbah. Yeah, it is a big change, and you were still young then, weren't you? So that's, I guess, a time when we do try things out. Some people don't. They just go and work somewhere and stay there forever, or get sick of it when they're 40 and now what? What am I going to do? But, you've had a few different tastes of different things. So did you decide then, what I'm trying to get at, is that that's what you love and that's what you want to keep doing? Or did you just think, I've got those experiences now, what else could I do? Or what happened after that?
My honest thought process was when I was working with that company in Newcastle doing the expansions of that big coal handling facility, I was working, there was a company that had a lot of older guys. Now, when I say older guys, they were nearing that retirement age. So anywhere from that late 55 to 65 mark, and some really, really great guys that knew, and they taught me so much. And it was never managing those people. It was asking them, this is what we need to achieve. How do we achieve it? Because you're the guys that are driving these things and these machines. I knew nothing about machines, but how do you do that? What do we need to do to ensure we can get this done? I need it done, 10 minutes ago always, as the bosses do, whatever. But how do we actually achieve that? And through that thought process and that rapport with people, they were able to, provide the outcomes. They were the guys, they were the skilled people, which taught me so much. Oh, wow, I don't need to tell them how to do it. I just need to know that this is what we need to achieve. How do you go about achieving it? But what made me realize was that these people have worked their whole life, and there was a big turning point where, and it was just after I left, that one of these guys actually passed away. He made it to retirement. He talked about for years that he was going to put the caravan on the car and they were going to travel Australia and all of these things, and he never got to do it. And it broke my heart to think that this guy has done so much and he's never really got to live a life. And I thought, well, I don't want to be that person. And that mindset came in. I want to retire by the time I'm 40, dreams. But what can I do in order to achieve something different? Or what can I do at least to try and get to that benchmark, or to try and have something, or at least be out of the industry by that time? Because people do work really hard in this industry, and they work long hours and they sacrifice so much. And I just wanted to find something, and I tried millions of different things, don't worry. But it's but yeah, that was that thought process. How do I actually get out of it? So yes, I wanted the progression and the career progression because I loved it and enjoyed it then, but I knew it wasn't forever either. Does that make sense? Or did I go off on tangents then?
No, I love tangents, so it's good. I'm writing a couple of things to go back to. We'll start with the older guys, and it really makes you realise that everyone needs mentors, no matter what industry you're in, especially the young people, but even not so much young people, because there's a lot of older people who are starting in mining especially, and you just need some people around you who are going to help and support you and say, it's okay, Mad Mumzie, come over here. I'll show you how to back in under the digger without getting abused, or at least try, and I had some people on my journey that really did that. And for the older fellas that are out there and they're watching or listening, that's what I say a lot of the times is be one of those people. Help them. Don't just get frustrated and angry and, just, dump it there because they're in the wrong spot or whatever. And it doesn't help. You're not going to make them any better. And so many people start in the mines and then they just leave. They just see that, which is why I do what I do, Paul, because they just see the money, time off, and how hard can it be driving a bloody dump truck up a ramp? But that's all they know. And then they get a job in the mines and wonder why they struggle, or they last for a couple of months, some of them, and then they leave. So it's really important that we have mentors, and for the older people that are still there to really help people through and to see yourself as really valuable. Don't just sit at the crib heart and hold it in. Share what it is that you know. It's really important. And then that guy that did all of that and then retired and then dies. Like that happened to it's a common story, so I can share it. That happened to my dad's boss I remember when we were kids, and he said, bugger that, I'm retiring when I'm 55. And he did. And they went off and they did laps around Australia. They went up the guts and turned left because they're in South Australia, up the guts and turned right. And then I think they went, everywhere, and now he's just retired. He did say he probably went a bit early, He didn't think he'd live this long. So, but that sadly is something that happens, but it's also an important, I guess, that then moves into thinking about your exit strategy as well. Like, how long do I want to be doing this? I know some old fellas out there, I just got to stay here till I either die or retire, because what else do I know? I don't know anything else, and they've got no choice. And then they're working at the dollar level. Do you know what I'm trying to say? Like, they have to live up to the income because their lifestyle has grown with their income, and so they can't afford to retire and go and just drive the grader at the council or something. Probably wouldn't even pay the mortgage. So, there's so many things that people just don't even consider at all.
Oh, it is. It's horribly sad, but, and then you've got the reality of that the people that work till that as well, but they do. They don't have the mortgage, they don't have the things, yet they're still working to try and, I don't know what it is. It's the older school mentality, but none of us younger people, or none of us in general, would be where we are if we didn't have the older mentors that were able to take the time and show us, like from an apprentice, you had a mentor that taught you how to hit a nail in, for starters, or and it's passing that on and showing and giving new and better ways to do it, so that people coming through can learn that you don't have to get it right, but you can learn it, and you can then put your own take on it to make it better, and then pass that knowledge on as well. And it's so important in life in general, not just in work side of things. We do it for everyone, and then we can be the prick at work, or people can be the prick at work. I'm not showing you, I'm not sharing, I'm not giving you, that information. Learn it yourself, learn it the hard way. Like, nah, come on. That's
I did.
Yeah, learn it like I did.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
I just got in a truck and they said, there you go, off you go. There's 4 wheels, well, 6. Go. Oh, how many times I've heard that, And I love how you're bringing that back to life, because it's not just mining, it's not just construction, it's not just FIFO. It's life. And as my sister, Hard Hat Mentor, always says, it takes a village. We need all these different people around us. And even as we're older, like I'm now at that age where I'm more the mentor kind of person, but I still need mentoring from older people. I've got a couple of coaches and stuff. I still need a bit of a pat on the back and a bit of a cuddle sometimes, like, you're all right, you can do this. So we all need someone like that. And if you haven't got that around you, it's really hard. And people really can struggle in this, getting back to the FIFO journeys. They really can struggle. They get out there and they're stuck in a donga for 2 weeks at a time. They're not talking to anyone. They don't know anyone. They might be struggling. There's so many things that can come up. And sadly, there's been lots of suicides. They've had, 2 inquiries into FIFO suicides. So is that... Before, I guess what I'm trying to say is, what were your biggest challenges, Paul, when you were doing it, but also what has inspired you to now go on and create all the things that you are now creating to help people? Because you've obviously seen it and felt it in your heart like I have. That's why I do what I do, but you're doing it on a, in a different way as well, which is great because it takes a village, right? So how did you get to that point where, well, bloody hell, I need to do a Facebook Live, and I need to start a group, and I need to help some people,
Yeah,
which you are.
It's a great question, and I guess, and I talk about overseas. So I spent 2 years working over in Saudi Arabia, and when I talk about projects, it wasn't in mining then. We were putting a metro system over there in the middle of Saudi Arabia in Riyadh, and I went there because my kids at that stage had moved away. They were older. They were living with a mum. My son was older. He was living away and doing his own thing. So I was only seeing them in the school holidays. So I was gifted an opportunity. I was asked to come over with the company I used to work with over there and take on this role. And I said yes without even thinking about it. Yes, and I saw dollars, and I saw an opportunity, and I saw a lifestyle change, but I didn't see the realities of what it actually meant. And I did no research into why I was going, where I was going, or what I was going to be doing, essentially.
So hang on, I'm going to interrupt you there. So you got a job in Saudi Arabia and did no research?
Absolutely zero. Didn't even know where it was.
So now this is where Mad Mumzie swears, right? Like, are you fucking crazy? Like, what up with that, man? Sorry, now you're making me cough.
It's one of those things, you say yes and work it out along the lines. And it was probably the one time I probably should have said, yes, let me have a think about it. And it wasn't a quick thing. It was, it took me 8 months to be able to go through the process to be able to actually get there as well. So it wasn't I had plenty of time to figure it out along the way. But what I recognized when I got there, it was that I'd stepped out of my comfort zone into a country that is probably one of the most restrictive in the world. And the reality of it is that it was intimidating. It was new. It was exciting. But I was shitting myself because I didn't know how to fit into that culture. And when I was essentially looking after, so we're building a metro system, I'm looking after one of the stations, obviously with people above me and lots of people. It was a huge project and it's still going. But hundreds and hundreds of people on site with maybe a few % of them that actually spoke English or English at all very well. So the reality of it was that majority of my engineers or whatever that I was working with were also my interpreters to speak Arabic and to do all these things. And I went there and my roster was 3 months on and I was home for about 11 days by the time travel was taken out and all of those things. Three months on, or 10 weeks on, 2 weeks off essentially, but give or take with the travel and blah, blah, blah. 9 months into that contract, and I had been working basically 7 days a week, 15, 16, 17 hours a day, just feeling like a zombie. And, the few breaks back and forth for the school holidays to see the kids. But I found myself crying in the corner of my cabin, just wondering, what the fuck have I got myself into? Where am I? What am I doing? And why am I feeling the way I'm feeling? I didn't know what was going on. I recognized it, but I didn't know what it was. But I was able to catch myself knowing, because you go through all these trainings and you learn all these things, but you never actually learn it about yourself in a way that you can avoid it if you see the signs early. And it was one of those moments where you just go, oh, fuck, if I don't change something, then the reality is, who knows? So it still wells me up to think about it, but that's the reality of it. But it was in that moment I went, if I'm feeling this, I've had a lot of training and I know this is happening, there's a lot of other people that are going through this as well. And I can change it, I can do something about it, but I have to change what I'm doing daily. I have to change what I'm doing on a consistent basis to turn the tide. And that was when I started implementing new things in order to change the reality of what I was facing. And it's also that point of, this is happening behind closed doors of the Donga, and I was living in a camp environment over there. But it was happy, smiley faces at work and happy, smiley faces at home. Life's great. You get paid every month and you think, okay, the pain goes away for that time. And then for those weeks leading up to payday, it creeps back into the point where you go, what am I doing? Then you get paid and you go, it's okay again. And whether you get paid weekly, fortnightly or monthly, and it's so common in mining, that pain goes away every time you get paid because you see those dollars and you don't see the sense behind why you're doing it. And it really woke me up to what the realities were.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that. I could see, this is the power of video, and this is why when I do my podcasts, they're always, I can see the person one way or another. But to be sharing this live, and for those of you watching and in the replay as well, you can see and feel the emotion of you like curled up in your donga and crying in Saudi Arabia. Like, what the hell am I doing here? I can feel that. And so many people have that. I've had it in my truck, and I've had blokes especially, which surprised me because, like, I'm just an emotional wreck. That's me. But to have blokes contact me and say, I cry in my machine too. And it's real, and we have all of these things now which are fantastic. Are You Okay? Beyond Blue, Mates in Mining, Mates in Construction. There's so many support things out there that are about opening up and starting to acknowledge that and reach out if you need help. But there's still a lot of people, sadly, that don't. And they either just keep going and are miserable and hate it and are, no joy to be around either, or like you, put on a brave face for the crew and at the mess and on the bus and in the light vehicles, and then go back to their donga and lose their shit. And some of them just don't come out. And you've got family, there's kids. You would have been missing your kids as well so much, and that's when it comes to that, I really can see that you got to a point where you recognized it. So you, like you say, you'd had some training, you had some tools in your toolkit to start to see it. But a lot of people don't have that. So you knew what boots you were starting to put on and went, nah, I'm not wearing those boots. Fuck them off. Right. And you got yourself out of it.
Absolutely. But one of the things that I used to, and we're running pre-start meetings, and I'd have, a couple of hundred people from, India, Pakistan, Yemen, Egypt, Lebanon, all of these people from mixed races that I'm standing in front of, and I'm thinking, what the hell do you have to complain about? Why are you...
You're talking to yourself.
Yeah, why are you feeling this way when you're being paid bloody good money to be there, and these people are being paid pittance to be there? They live away from home for 2 years. They hand their passport over when they get to the country. They live away from their family for 2 years at a time. Then they pay for their own flights to go home to visit their family for a month, and they come back and do it all again. What the hell have you got to complain about, and why are you feeling the way that they do, that you are, when these people turn up to work every day with a smile on their face, grateful for what they've got, not complaining very much at all? And I went to their camps and I went to their food halls and I saw how they lived, and it was not nice and it wasn't right. But that's what they do. And, there was a huge reality check moment there as well of that. It's like, you need to do something better than this, and you need to pull yourself out of this, because you really don't have it bad. Yes, you're feeling the way you are, and that's real and that's raw, but you can turn it around because you have the ability, unlike these people do, to be able to do something about it.
And do you also feel like you had a big why? Like, what was your why? Was it, I don't want to put words in your mouth, because it's really important to have a why. Why am I here? Why am I going to come out of this donga that I'm crying in? Why am I going to turn this around? What was your why, Paul?
Well, there's always that in the back of your head, the kids, of course, but it's that what I wanted to show them was that no matter what stage of life you're at, you have the ability to change it. It's just a choice. You don't have to stay the way that you're feeling or thinking or acting. You can change that. And throughout the whole journey, that had happened many times. But it got to that point where it's like, no. So I had to.
And so did you have to break a contract to get out of it, or you just didn't come back one day?
I handed my resignation in and I asked to leave 9 months before my contract was up. I signed a contract for 2 years. I said, I need to go. And they said, that's okay, we'll find a replacement. Well, the replacement turned up a month after I left, after I'd served my 2 years. So I pretty well served my 2 years and left almost to the date. But it wasn't without lots of sacrifice and choice, and having those mentors, those coaches. I took on my own coach. I changed everything. I tried online marketing to be able to support, to try and change my mindset, personal development. I went down reading books and exercise and nutrition and all of these combination of factors of living in that foreign country. It was all impacting in its own ways. And, there was so many different elements that I had to change in my own reality that accumulated to be able to turning it around. And, yeah, it wasn't easy. It wasn't. But it was a choice to go, no, you have to do something.
I know a couple of times in my life I've been, at the bottom of that cave, at the bottom of the well, looking up, and I'm like, I know what to do. I know I've got the tools. I know what I should be doing, but you know what? I don't want to. I'm not ready. I don't care. I don't want to do it. I just want to stay here. I just want to feel sorry for myself. I just want to wallow for a while in the depths of all the things, I just and then luckily eventually it started to turn around, and then I feel like I kind of like, say you're in the bottom of a swimming pool and you're on the ground, and then you go not on the ground, at the bottom of the pool, and then you push up. That's what I felt like I did. But sometimes you have to allow yourself to feel those things, because I'm a positive, happy, nice, friendly person. Sometimes I just needed to stay down there and get really mad because some shit was going on and get upset. And you've just got to feel it sometimes. And a lot of people don't do that. And then they'll snap it might seem like the smallest thing, but it's been brewing and brewing and brewing, but they haven't seen the signs. They haven't noticed what boots they were starting to put on, and they didn't know how to get out. So is that the sort of thing that you share now, that you're starting to help others?
Well, it is, and it's been a journey in that stage, and that's where I started to create those Facebook pages, and it started having those conversations with people back in Australia and all around the world of, what's going on for you. What I recognised was it was, as much as it was helping them, it was helping me to heal and realise I wasn't alone, and everyone else goes through these stuff as well. And it was, through the accumulation of trying different things and learning and reading and, probably hundreds of audio books that I've now listened to, in the personal development phase, and that, you got a long time on a plane, it's almost a 22-hour journey by the time you go through airports and that to get back to Australia from over there. It's a long time. So you got a lot of time on your hands to listen and read and do those things. But it started to fascinate me how that we can actually improve ourselves. And it never, I thought it was all that old airy-fairy stuff that, we all need help and personal development, woohoo, blah, 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 whatever. But it's so important to, when you look at it, we go through it our whole life. We're always doing personal development. We've got our coaches at sport. We've got mentors. We've got traineeships, apprentices. We've got people that teach us how to drive trucks, whatever it is. We're always being coached in the background. And I took on my own coach for 9 months that helped me get through that period. And, he said to me back in that stage, why don't you share and help and do this for other people? And it hasn't come easily. It's been a journey whilst I've been working that FIFO lifestyle for the last few years. and doing it of a night time and doing it on the side and all of these things. And then to now creating my own programs to share with people based on all of that lived experience and what other people have shared with me. And what I found was such a simple thing that I was getting so wrong. But when I changed it and when I implemented the things and went back to the basics and figured out that you can get it right if you just implement some simple tweaks into what you're doing.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
And it does, totally. It totally, all of it. I'm just absorbing it because I can see how you're growing in the space and how you're interacting and people are interacting with you, and like in your Facebook group, what is it called? That the group
Successful
with the
Fifo families.
Successful Fifo families. I love it. And I think it's every day. You at least once a day throw up a question, and I love the engagement that you're getting, and people are in there and they're talking about it. And I usually come in every now and again and put my 2 bobs worth in as well. And I see Finny Pete in there the other day. He's been on the podcast as well. I'll share the link in the show notes, which can be found at madmumzie.com/beers74. And, it's really good. It's getting people thinking about, like, I think one the other day was, what is the first thing you would pack if you were going away, when you're FIFO? And they're all of the things. I like some people had it like, they had a big, massive list. That's not one thing. I was trying to narrow it down to one thing. I'm like, this guy, he's got like 30 things. I could do that too, It was funny. So I said a pillow because I remember working at this one band camp and I was on night shift, and the pillow was literally like a slab of, is it cement or concrete? I always get mixed up.
Whichever one you want it to be. Cement's the product, but it turns into concrete, I guess.
Right, so cement. So it's like a bag of cement that had gone hard, and that was a pillow in my donga, and I slept on it for one night, and I was on night shift, so one day, and I could feel my neck getting stiff. I thought, I've got 7 bloody nights out here. So I drove. That was around Moranbah way. I drove into Moranbah, went into Target Country, and bought a pillow. And I was like, and from then on, I never, ever forgot my pillow. So that's why I put that in your Facebook group. But they're the sort of things that really get people thinking as well.
It is, and that's in the little guides I've got and things like that. It's the first thing. I mean, my pillow went all around the world with me. Like that was because that you've got that one comfort item, and that when you put your head down, you feel it's almost that safety. It's that comfort. That's one thing that is yours and no one else can have. And it's that, I never went anywhere, any camp without my own pillow.
Yeah.
So I love that one.
And so do you take it on the plane as well, or do you shove it in a bag, or do you carry it on the plane and lay on it?
I've been pretty lucky that I've always been lucky that I've had my own dongers, I guess, if you want to call it, the long term, and never really hot bedded or anything. So I was able to leave stuff there. So, and that makes a huge difference. So to those people that live the life of hot bedding and changing every swing, I take my hat off to you, because that sucks. Let's be honest. I did it a couple of times when you go to short terms, but nah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I was spoiled for about 9 years. I had my own unit. It was a unit, not a donga, a unit, like houses that had been split up into units. And then I went to another band camp, and I was hot seating in a camp, not in town. And it'd take me by the end of it, especially because I was starting to set up all of this. So I'd take my office with me as well as my stuff, my teddy, my quilt, my, all the things, 4 bloody trips from the car. And sometimes you don't get very close. So and one day there was this big I think I've shared this on the podcast. There was this big kangaroo, and it was lining me up. It was bigger than me because I'm only 5'2" or 3" or something. And there was this guy waiting to get the bus out to work, And he was the one who said, "You watch him, he's lining you up," because I kept coming back with my with my suitcase, or my esky, had to take a couple of beers with me, so you have me 1 or 2 beers each night. So many things. So having a permanent room is just like gold nowadays, and you never know what room you're going to be in. It's shit.
Yeah, exactly. I think it should be one of the prerequisites for every camp. Give everyone their own room and let them feel at home a little bit.
Yeah, and at least, yes, you can hotbed. Like while you're on break, someone else can go in there, which a lot of them do. But at least you go to the same room and there's a locker in the room, like a wardrobe that locks up, and you can leave so much of your stuff there, take your valuables and that with you, and you don't have to go and hand your key in every time and write in the thing. And, and it's a 10-minute walk to the frickin' office in the 40-degree heat in summer in central Queensland. They're the sort of, and they take a lot out of you. And that's when you start saying, fuck this shit, I'm not doing this anymore. I don't want to go. I don't want to go. I don't want to walk to the office and find out where I'm going. I just want to go and get in my room and go to sleep because I've got to go to work in 4 hours, for your first night, stuff like that. So what sort of challenges do you see in other people that you interact with? Like we've spoken about yours. What are some of the common things or whatever you would like to share?
I honestly think loneliness is a huge one, but I think the main one in that space is the uncertainty. It's the uncertainty of, you always, especially in the projects world, and I can only relate to the projects world, but it's the uncertainty of is the job going to end? When's it going to end? What's the next project look like? And it's the constant chasing. It's the constant, is a subcontractor I'm working for, are they doing a good job? Are we going to get kicked off? So there's always that inklings in the back of your head, and there's always that fear-based mentality which creates the uncertainty, because if I do the wrong thing, I'm on the window seat. If I mess up, I'm going home, and then all my dreams are gone out the window, and sometimes they're not my fault, but they could be my fault, and I'm stressed out. And so that uncertainty around the lifestyle, I think, is such a huge element, and it can tie into so many different mini elements of that. Yeah, that's what I find, definitely.
Well, I have to agree with you there, especially at the moment with the contracting mentality in mining. You can be escorted to the gate at any time. You can get a phone call on break or a text message. Your services are no longer required. And I get if you call it a positive, is if you want to leave, you can do the same. Yeah, take me to the gate. I've had enough. I'm off. You don't have to give notice if you're permanent, if you've got another job or whatever. And I know a lot of people that actually have done that. Enough of this shit. I'm out of here. Take me. I'm gone. But I was watching the Queensland mining inquiry, and it was into the gas build-up in the undergrounds around here. There'd been an explosion, sadly, but they kept coming back to the us and them mentality between the contractors and the permanents, and a lot of that had to do with other contractors not speaking up about safety hazards and issues because for fear of losing their job. Or speaking up, and it's a huge thing, and it's out there and it's real. And I won't go into that too much because that was my last episode, was me on a rant about mining inquiries. We just had another one, and 3 or 4 years before I'd already done a podcast episode about the same thing, and they've just done another bloody inquiry. Like, what to do. The outcomes are there. Stop so many contracting. Like, put on people permanent and do it properly. Well,
that in itself, without going into it as well, that fear-based mentality of, rather than focusing on the reality of surviving, I'm focusing on the reality of I'm just going to lose my job. Now, what, from a safety point of view, what are you actually thinking about here? You're thinking
your job.
about yes, you want to be paid every week, but you're putting all of that at risk of, yeah, it's a bigger picture. People forget about the bigger picture a lot, and very easily and very, very quickly.
And how easily it can come around. You know, there's been times, other band camps I've been at, and we all knew that people were going to get put off today, and there's a list, and when's the list coming out? In the meantime, off you all go to work, stay safe, do the right thing, mind on the job, you know, jolly good. Like, everyone's thinking about, who do you think's going to go? And then they put people off and everyone's like, you know, how come he went and this person is still here? So it really changes you. Oh, man, that's huge. It changes the crew culture, and how your crew culture has a lot to do with your mindset as well, and your mentality. If you're on a good crew, you can put up with most shit. If you're on a crew that is divided and gossip and potting each other in and all the things, it's a bad place. And that's another thing, you do not want to go. You don't want to go when it's like that.
Yeah, and it's exactly the same in projects. It's, you know, you've got, it just filters through so quickly, doesn't it? That if it's a good scene, it's a great project. If you got that bad scene happening, it turns into a shit project. And I can only imagine that, you know, for you people playing in the big Tonka trucks all the time, it's not a place you want to play with when people are in a shitty mood. You know, Dodgem cars in those aren't real good.
No, that's right. And here in Queensland, we've had a lot of actual deaths recently. And a lot of this came out in that. So it's real, you know, and that's where Steel Cap Sisters really was born, was over that, you know, hashtag 1 minute for our lost miners. And we just had to keep adding bloody helmets and candles and steel cap boots to the graphic that I created. Like, you can, look, there's another one. This is ridiculous. So, and this is why I do what I do, and I know it's why you do what you do, just so people can see inside the industry, see inside like for you, working away from home, what sort of thing, you know, to expect, how can you make it work, things like that. And for me, I just say how it can be and how it is, and which is what isn't really told at inductions and stuff. You know, they don't talk like that.
No, and it's not about, I don't want to put the fear of the industry into anyone, because it's not about that. It's a great industry if you do it the right way, and you can make the industry such a success for yourself if you set it up correctly and you do it the right way, and you listen and you learn and you try different things as well, because what's necessarily being done and has been done for the last 10 years is proving that it's not working, because there's lots of things still going wrong. And people sacrifice so much for this industry that the job's so much more important than life itself and their families and their friends and all of these things, because they're chasing a dollar to ultimately set themselves up for a lifestyle that they want for their families to have these things, yet they're not really recognizing what the impact of it can create if it's not done correctly as well. You know, if you can blend that together, if you can create it in a way that allows you to have that balance in FIFO or Dido or whatever it is in this industry and at home, you can do it for the right reasons, you can do it for a shorter time, and you can get the results that you want. And you can't do that unless you're specific about why you're doing it.
Yeah, always start with your why. That's right. And you're also, I'm glad that you brought that up, is that not everyone struggles. Not everyone has issues with crews. Not everyone gets abused. Not everyone. So, you know, there are people that make it work, or that it just naturally works for, or they are naturally doing the sort of things that we're talking about, you know. So it's important to realise that you can definitely have a successful, exciting life doing the FIFO and doing mining. It is so many, thousands of people that do it for years and years, and they're not just doing it because they have to, because they got the golden handcuffs on. They're, you know, they're doing it because they actually enjoy it. There's a
Yeah,
lot
they've
of
made it
people that
work.
do that. That's right. And it's important to remember that. It really is, because a lot of people focus on the negative, and that's why I try to get a good variety of people on the podcast as well, is to let's just tell some stories, fun things. And then there's others, where we go a bit deeper, and even in the fun ones who are, I'm just a dozer driver, and this is my story. There's usually a little bit of the challenge that they had and how they overcome it and stuff. So it's really good that there's a lot of people that are talking about it all now, and it's more open. It's being seen to be more open and welcoming. If you are struggling, there's help. Reach out, and if you're listening now and you're struggling, please, if this has brought anything up for you, I'm sure, Paul, you'd agree that we really encourage you to reach out to the support systems that are out there.
Yeah. Firstly, ring your family and friends, and if that's not it, that's, take it to that next level. It's so important. You may just need a chat, get it off your chest. And it is. And I think that, there's so many elements to it, and no one can do it the same way as the person next to them. It's so individualized that, and this is what I try and share and teach with people and help them on, is that you have to do it what works for you, and you have to be so specific as to why you're doing it. You have to, and I want to share what this is behind me, because this is what
Please
this
do.
is, and it's you have to have your plan.
I'm just going to interrupt because for the podcast they can't see the video. So Paul is pointing at a whiteboard that is behind him with something written in the middle and then circles around the outside. I will actually, if you can take a picture of that and share it, I'll put it in the show notes, madmumzie.com/beer74. But I'm sure you'll be able to explain it anyway.
I just want to share that the 6 key elements that I have found that work not only for me and what allowed me to change everything. And don't get me wrong, I still got it wrong. But what I recognize is that if you can do these things 80% of the time well, then you can be successful. And I will go into how that journey for me in Fifo ended as well, because I still got it wrong right till the last day. So, but you can still, if you set it up correctly and and this is it. So the number one thing I share with people in these 6 key elements is you have to have your plan and you have to be specific about it. You then have to prepare yourself for why you're going, where you're going, and what you're going to be doing. You have to create a structure that works for you. You have to create a routine that works for you. Again, they both have to be individualized. Then you need to create the routine we've talked about. Then you need to implement the steps that you said that you were going to do for yourself. And then you need to tie that together with a balance, not only in your camp life, but in your home life. And when you bring that whole piece together, those 6 key elements, and you get those right, and from a family point of view, if you do this together and create it together, then you will get the success that you want, and you'll do it the right way. And when those times of toughness come up, you'll both be able to call on each other to remind yourself why you're doing it and how you're doing it, what you discussed as a family. Because at the end of the day, and I go back to the building the houses time and bringing it all together, what I saw so often is that these beautiful homes that we were building, people weren't living in them because they were so busy. They were so far away from home. They were, not spending their time there because they're so busy working, whether they're in this industry or they're working locally. They were so busy working that they weren't enjoying their time, and the separation of the families became such a reality. And it just all pieced together for me that, we do all these things to set ourselves up for success, yet in the background we're actually going so far away from what we're actually trying to create for ourselves because we forget about the reasons why we're doing it and the simple things. If we can do that, we can bring that harmonious family life together and create a lifestyle and create the success that we want for ourselves and our families. That's ultimately why we're doing it.
Boom, drop the mic. That was gold. Thank you. That's a really a wonderful way that you've outlined it to balance it all. Like your plan, prepare, just move your head to the left. Plan, prepare, structure, routine, implement, balance, and plan. We're back up the top, and that equals FIFO success.
Exactly.
I love it. Yeah, and it
that's
makes
what we
sense.
want.
It is. Otherwise, why are you doing it? You don't go there.
Why are you doing it?
Fail.
No,
yeah, that's it.
We don't want people to fail. We want people to have the success for the sacrifice that they're making, not only for their family but their friends and everything else around them. You know, you give up so much. You know, you've done it. You've given up so much. You've missed out on so much. Yes, you may have gained from it, but make it for the right reasons.
That's it. And you don't want, like, you might be enjoying going out to work, but your family isn't enjoying you being there. So there's so many different areas that can succeed and others fail on both sides, on all the different areas. So that's something else to think about as well. You've got to, and that's why I love those 6 key elements. They're really get everyone around the table, guts on the table. How are we going to make this work?
And that's why I created the program that I've created, and I've got it all online now. I've put it onto a platform where it can all be done online as well, and I get to see people succeed, and I get to see people have those little moments where they go, oh shit, I just need to tweak it. And it's not about being wrong, it's just about tweaking it a little bit sometimes in order to get a better result. And those little moments, I go, oh yes, now it makes sense. Now if I just do this, and it's because you don't want people to get to a place that you've been yourself. And if they can, and that's the thing that frustrates me about all of the amazing companies and things out there bringing awareness to this industry, it's all still reactive. What I need and what I want is for people to be proactive about why they're doing it and how they're setting it up, so they don't need those services. What those services are a last resort. Why are we so many people getting to that point where they need those services? There's obviously failure so far before that. And if anyone's been through mining 5 whys or timelines and accidents and things, why are we getting to that point? Because there's so many fundamental issues, because people aren't either in the right headspace, they haven't planned, they haven't prepared, they haven't done any of these things correctly, and the outcome is they need an EAP service or something like that. People are still going to slip through the cracks, and that's going to be there. They're an important service, don't get me wrong. But we need to be proactive as opposed to being reactive.
And I totally on board with you there too, Paul. It goes right back even like as far as before they even get the job, to know what they're in for, to know what to expect, to know what the camp's like, to know, I mentor people when I get them, well, I got a job, yay, finally, okay, yeah. So, and they're leaving tomorrow and they hardly know anything. Are you serious? We've had all these inquiries, and so much of it is supposed to be about people knowing what they're in for, knowing what to expect so that they can plan for it. Is there internet? Like, there's so many Facebook groups about mining camps, and you go in there and all the questions are, is there internet there? Is there a gym? Is there a this? How do you get there? What's it like? Is it shit food? Blah, blah, blah. And if you didn't know that, just find them on Facebook, because they're quite interesting to have a look at, and there'll be varying degrees. Some people love it, some people hate it, or it used to be shit, now it's good, or the other way around. But they're the sort of things that the people that hire you should be doing more. And that's where, as Mad Mumzie, it hasn't happened yet, but I'd really like to get more into the going along to induction days and stuff, or I've already created some stuff for my peeps as well, but just so they know what they're in for and what to take to camp. they don't give you things like that. You might get a pretty little brochure that this big contractor has printed off that everyone gets, but they don't know all the little things. You need to know more, and that's why I believe my podcast speaks to people, because what you're doing and other people's podcasts like Finny Pete's, he's talking to miners and stuff. Full Production, his podcast,
yep.
I think.
Yep.
Excuse me.
Yeah, Lockie Samuel's doing great things over there now in WA with Happiness Co. and doing his tour at the moment around, there so many people, Dan Hunt with his mental health movement, and all of these people are doing amazing things. They're all fantastic people in their own right and doing incredible things into an industry that obviously needs so much help. And we can't, and you talk about the village and you talk about we need to do it as a combined effort, and we can all do it. And all of these little elements bring together what people will take out of these things, what they need to take out of it. And it might be a snippet from every single person, but if those people aren't sharing it, they'll never get it. And that's what's so important about yourself and everyone else collectively are doing their own little bit to try and just improve it. Because all of these people have had experiences that they haven't all been bad. There's been some bad ones along the line, but there's been some amazing things come out of it as well. Through our mess becomes our message is one of those biggest things, and it's so important that we actually share that. Because if my son was going and he's 22 and he has considered it, he's a hydraulic hose fitter, he's an apprentice. I said, mate, you're not ready for it. This isn't for you at the moment. You don't want to go there now. And I want people to know that someone out there would look after my son and tell them what they need to know and need to hear so they make a choice that's right for them. Because so many people are out there for the wrong reasons, without the experience, without knowing what they're doing, and they're the ones that get themselves into trouble and find out, and then families have to deal with the consequences. We don't need people to go there if they're not a right fit for it. And you talk about the induction, the screening stage of it. I totally agree 100% that these are the sorts of things that we need to do at an earlier stage so people that aren't fit for the industry don't end up there. It's as simple as that.
Yeah. My first section of my course, Pounce, how to get a job as a dump truck operator, and it's got nearly 1,000 people that have signed up to that now, and it's free. I got a little ad on Facebook, stop the Google search, just how do I get a job in the mines? Well, come here, have a look at this. I'll leave it in the show notes, a link to it. But the whole first section is about questions to ask yourself and your family. What are you prepared to do? What aren't you prepared to do? Because some people say, I'll do anything just to get a job in the mines. Well, anything? Like, really? Like, what's your anything? There's lines. Yeah. Or maybe you don't have any lines, and that's fine. And so the first whole section, at the end of it, I say, and you might get to this point and decide, no, it's not really for me. Like you started this podcast about, I'd love a job, but I don't think I'd pass a drug test just yet. I've had a lot of friends and like, no, bugger that, or you might miss the grand final. Your football team's in the grand final, first time, never made it. You won't even hear it. Oh, fuck that, So there's so many different things that people don't even think about. Are you prepared to miss birthdays and Christmas and stuff? Yes, and there is lots of good things, but and funerals, yes. And 2020 is the year that people are realising just how much we miss things like that because we can't go. And sometimes the amount of times I've been stuck in a bloody coal mine in the middle of Queensland, and I've got one of my kids on the phone when I'm at the crib up bawling their eyes out. I just need a hug, Mum, and I can't be there. I'm not there. Stuck in the middle of a fucking coal mine again. Yep. I was always out there when something happens, and that's something that they say too, If something's going to break, it'll happen when the partner's out at work, But I don't want to dwell on the bad things because there's a lot of good things. And the crew becomes your family. Like, I've got great mates. I've got so many wonderful memories of dressing up at Christmas and going, because, you know, we worked Christmas, and decorating my truck. And I got so many good stories, which had a lot to do with why I stayed for so long. And a lot of people do. You find the good bits between the shit bits is one of Mad Mumzie's sayings. And then hopefully the good bits grow and the shit bits start to dwindle as you start to notice and understand yourself and how you're reacting and what boots you've got on in that situation. Right, I know I don't get on with that guy, so don't go and sit next to him at the cribber, because you know you're going to have an argument over whatever, football, politics, whatever. Just don't go there. Okay, I'll go out and sit out here. Oh, I found a new friend. So there's so many things like that that can help you get through.
Absolutely. You just, and you talk about it, you know, find your tribe, and it's just being that. It's so important, and that's a huge part of it. Just avoid the negative bloody people out there, because you can make it a success. Yes, people go through challenges, people go through so many different things. But if you have that understanding, you have all those fundamentals in the background that are working for you, you can truly make it a success. And you're going to get it wrong along the lines too. And as I said, I was going to share with you right up until the point, and I stepped away from Fifo in June this year, July. Now, that was a forced exit. Now, I had my plan in place. I'd implement stuff. So over the last 3 years since I've been doing this and sharing this and really honing in on this, I had everything in place, and I had a goal to be out of there by the 1st of September. Family, we had decided that was enough. We had done what we needed to do. We had specific things. We'd achieved what we wanted to achieve. We'd put a time frame on it, the 1st of September, because it was spring, new season, all of these things, you know, this is us. So 4 weeks and I let my guard down. Yeah. And 4 weeks before that, I let my guard down. And for the first time ever, I blew numbers. So my choice was taken away from me. So we went out and had a bit of a work function, and I didn't have to log in that day. I didn't have to go to work that day. It was fly out day. So I was only there for a few hours anyway. My office was off site, so I didn't actually have to swipe in. I could have gone to the office and still pretended to be at work and all of those things. Something in that, I had a key to every gate on the external property boundary, so I could have got into the mine no matter what it wanted. Something said to me that day that you just need to swipe on, and it is what it is, you know. No, don't be like that. Don't be those people. And blew numbers. And in that moment, whilst it was disappointment that I'd let myself down, it was the biggest relief that had ever happened. It was like when the nurse or whatever, she said, that's not a good result. I said, no, that's the best result I've ever had, because now I finally get to go home, have my family, and do what I want to do. And now I'm doing it. And it was so good. Such a relief for me.
Wow. I can feel your emotion there at the end. It's the universe doing its shit. And
Absolutely.
your little voice said, no, for some reason I'm going.
Yep.
And then that, like you say, that made it happen. It's wow. Oh,
Best
thank
thing
you
that
for
ever
sharing
happened.
that with us. Yeah. And it makes you now, even though you had a plan. So how far ahead of the plan of exiting were you when that happened?
We had the things in place that we wanted to have in place. You know, I've got the house, we've got an investment property, we have our cars, you know, we have those little things that, you know, so many people never get. And, you know, whilst you may not own them outright, you have those things and you have that stuff implemented for yourself to allow you to set yourself up. And that's why you're there. You're there to set yourself up to make the later years that little bit easier. And, you know, and whilst I never really shared those things that, you know, I have, because it's not about that show pony stuff that you'd be able to, you know, but there's a lot of sacrifice behind the scenes to be able to get that. And for the people out there that have those things, be proud, because you've earned them. be proud because you've sacrificed for them, but don't take it for granted, because there's a lot of people out there that are doing it really tough as well that don't have those things. So it's not about having the ego attached to it, just having that pride attached to it, in a sense that you can be, you can just actually go and enjoy them more, really. And that's what it's about. And to be home, because I missed all of that stuff with my own kids. Now to be in a new relationship with the twin boys that not mine biologically, but been with for 3 years now, I get to go back to that time where I'd missed out on the kids at that 10 to that 10-year-old sort of mark. And it's like that second chance again, but it was like, no, I'm not going to be away. I'm not going to do those things again. I don't want to live away from home anymore. I want to have a family. I want to be home. And that was my plan. All I ever wanted to do was have that plan in place so I could be home and have a family. And that was my goal. Now I get to share what I love doing so other people can have what they want as well, whatever it may look like for them.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. And as you were saying that, I was thinking about the people that have just started in mining and, I'm going to get a new car and I'm going to go to Thailand for a holiday and I'm going to do, well, you can't really do that so much these days, but, I'm a rich miner now and I went through that myself. I was like the rich miner who paid for everyone's everything.
Yep.
But I should have kept a lot more of it for myself to pay off that mortgage and stuff instead of hiring a convertible in the best unit at Mooloolaba and, all of those things. And it was good because I'd never had it and I was starting again. So it was really good for me to have that for a few years. But then in hindsight, when you look back, but just for the people that are new, especially in this climate of mining, it can be taken away from you at any time. So make the most of it and don't just assume that you're always going to be on that money because anything can happen, So make the most of it, do good with it. Whatever your good is, it might not be the mortgage and the car and stuff.
Yeah.
It might be your good is experiences, like going on holidays. That's why you're there. If that's your why, do that, but just really be aware that it can be taken away at any time. Now for a word from our sponsor, Julia Hartman and the Bantax Accounting Group. Julia's my awesome accountant. She's written 2 books with financial expert Noel Whittaker, and she's got a passion to help us miners make the most out of our hard-earned cash. She's got heaps of tips and make sure that we get every cent we are meant to get and is right on the ball with everything. If you head to bantax.com.au/miners, that's BANTACS, you can download a free booklet all just for us miners. And there's also a spreadsheet in there that helps you check off what tools you have for your trade, like your isolation lock, work boots, 7 shirts, all of these sorts of things, and you can weigh them up and it'll tell you if you qualify weight-wise to claim your trips out to work. And that's just one of the things that they've got over there. So I strongly urge you to head to bantax.com.au/miners and see what they can do and find your nearest office as we come up to tax time. They're really on the ball, know what's going on with the tax department, and there's heaps of other free information like property investing. If you really plan on doing some great things with your money, you want to do that, right? If you want to sell your house, can save a lot of money if you find out what to do first rather than in hindsight. And Julia, she'll, make sure you get it right. And if you do it wrong and then go and see her, she'll up you in the nicest possible way because she really cares about us and wants us to keep our money and not give it to the tax department. Anyway, head over to bantax.com.au/miners and tell them Mad Mumzie sent you.
And that's going to change. And what I love about the way I've created the program that I've got and share is that I say to people, reassess every single roster, because that dynamics is ever so changing, and your reasonings for being there will change as well along the lines. Your age will change, so your dynamics of what you actually want in life will change. You know, you might have a new relationship. You might have a sickness at home that things change. So you have to be able to consistently reassess why you're there and not just take it for granted that it's just going to be there, as you say, because, yeah, those places can shut down overnight and you'll be left guessing. And that's the uncertainty that we spoke about earlier.
Yeah, that's right. All right. I might just, we might start thinking about wrapping up. We've gone an hour and a half.
So we could chat for ages, couldn't we?
Yeah, well, we could, and I have before, which is why some of my, and that's the beauty of podcasts, is they can go as long as they need to be, really, because you can listen to it on the plane, and then when you get off the plane, you stop. And then when you doing that walk, unpacking your stuff to your donga, 4 trips, dodging kangaroos in the heat, going to get your key, you can still be listening to that podcast again. So I've been in a few podcast groups, and they all say, they shouldn't be longer than 45 minutes because that's a 45-minute commute. Like, the people that listen to my podcast, they're working 14, 15, 16-hour days, and it takes them a whole day to get to work even when they get on the way. 1 4-hour podcast is just between first and second crib, man, in the truck. I love the long ones. So, but we might just lighten up a bit. And have you got anything else that you want to say about all that? I've just got a couple of quick, light questions to wrap up with if you're ready.
No, for sure. Go for it.
All right. Do you have any tips for dealing with night shift, or have you done night shift when you were doing all that?
I have done night shift. I hate it. I think it's wrong in every element.
Wrong.
But, if beers are allowed, you can have a couple of quick beers. Not the best way, though, when you're sleeping through the day and it's hot and sweaty and the air conditioner rattles and the dust is coming through the aircon and all of those things. Earplugs are a good one. Not earphones, because as we know, they can catch on fire in your bed, and that's not a nice way to wake up. But
can they? Ooh.
Yeah. Haven't you seen that when you anyway?
No.
And your chargers can overheat under the pillows and all those things. I really did learn to listen to some of the meditation apps and the sleep apps and things like that, and I did find them actually, whilst they were really weird to start with, and it's like, God, this is, what's going on? But I learned to like them, and and just listen to, a book or something, read a book and go to sleep. There's so many different things, and everyone's different. You just have to find something that works and keep trying something different until you find something that works for you. And if you can avoid night shift, do it.
And it changes. Like, you can go from day to day, I got a great sleep, and then next day, no sleep. So don't beat yourself up. And my biggest tip is don't beat yourself up because you're not asleep. God, I got to go to sleep. I got to get up in 2 hours. I got to go to sleep. Well, you're not going to go to sleep feeling like that. I say, especially that first day when you're going out for night shift, so you haven't even done night shift yet, and you've rocked out to camp about lunchtime, drive out, peep kind of person, and you just rock up and you got to try and get a few hours in however you can. I used to say, well, I'm in bed, I got my jammies on, I got my pillow, I got my teddies, and to me, that's sleeping. That's what I started telling my brain. So, but like you say, it's different for everyone. It changed over the years. I was listening to those meditation apps. My favourite, I still do now, is Calm, the Calm app. They have sleep stories, and I never get to the end. Whereas my daughter doesn't like listening to them because she needs to hear the end of the story so it keeps her awake.
Well, there's great ones. There's some sleep cycle apps and things like that.
I had that
8-hour sleep cycle. And I found them good, and I found them really great on the plane, especially when you're on the plane for longer than 8 hours. So it was always good.
Stuff. Oh, yeah. Okay, what do you do with your old PPE? Hard hats, high-vis shirts, steel cap boots?
I always try and keep a pair of boots because they're always good for mowing the lawn and doing stuff. PPE, I've got a bag full of pants. I tend to throw the shirts out and leave them there. I don't know how many places I've left, and, there's all the shirts and there's all the jackets and all of that, because you can only have so many fishing jackets. You only need, one or two. But, most of them don't like you giving them to the St. Vinnies or anything like that, which is such a shame. So, I leave them because I don't need the luggage weight.
I was going to say, because you're flying from overseas, that's got a lot to do with it as well. I've got a mountain of high-vis that and I've got all different sizes because, you got to have your fat days and your skinny days, and this new style came out and all of that. Back in the day when I was permanent and you got a new issue every year, they don't do that so much anymore. So, my mum used to make hard hat pot plants. So hang the hard hats upside down and put petunias in them on the veranda. Oh, and I have planted herbs in steel cap boots before in my garden. I've still got my original old ones. Speaking of steel cap boots, have you got any stories around steel cap boots? Have you ever found any critters in them or know anyone that has? Like, what sort of critters do they have in bloody Saudi Arabia?
Well, there are scorpions over there, but I never found that. Oh. You wouldn't leave your stuff outside because, feral cats over there are probably the worst thing. They're everywhere. Be crying under your dongers and whinging and fighting and scratching and and for all the cat lovers out there, well, fair play to you, but I'm not a cat fan, and these things were anyway, let's not go there. But I've heard the stories. For me personally, the odd spider and that you've, well, what's that? But nothing too dramatic really, or maybe a pair of socks you've left there for a week and forgot to wash because they were stuffed so far in your boot.
And you didn't know they were in there.
Nothing
that's
too
cool.
bad.
Yeah, that's something that I ask. And Dione, Cardat Mentor, always says, now remember when you check your boots, think about it. How are you going to check your boots? You're going to stick your hand in there to see if anything's going to bite your foot.
Exactly. And
and I'm like,
put them upside down.
Oh, shit. Yeah, that's
always a bit of a ritual, I suppose, that you tip them up before you put them on, because you always get that loose little pebbly rocks and shitty things. You put them on, you go, take them off again.
Yeah, and they're not easy to, unless you've got the zip lace.
The zip sides are the best.
Yeah, that's it. I worked with a fella who had a green tree frog in there but didn't know, and it was just annoying him, and he was driving a digger and he couldn't just stop, and then at crib he come and got it out, and he's like, bloody hell, it's a frog. And so I love frogs, and so he didn't care. He's like, it just annoyed me all morning, and so I went and got it. It was all feral and crispy and drying up, but it wasn't dead, and I took it over and I put a bit of water on it, found a plant, put it in a plant. Oh my God. So you never know what you're going to get. But
how do you know those things aren't in your boot? I feel
it's squished right up in.
Yeah,
but it's soft and squishy, and he kind of thought it was like his sock wasn't on right.
Just a
like,
bad
what have I
toe
done?
jam.
It was just, exactly. It was a frog. What is your special place when life turns to shit? How do you personally handle tough times? Your strategies to hang in there?
Oh yeah, that's a good question. And it used to be anger, frustration, and and then it was the guilt and regret and everything attached to it. But now, after being through so many different programs and learning so much about myself over the last few years, it's being able to recognize those things when they come up and going, no, it's just that. Yes, those things still come up. You still get the frustration. But what I recognize the most is that in my own personal life is that I need to have those go-to things. And I talk about the balance a lot, and it's the most crucial element, and finding those things that you love so you don't get yourself to those places as often. For me, I love the water. So, I love surfing. I love scuba diving. I love all those things. And I know that if I get up, and which I do quite regularly now, and I'm at the beach at 5 o'clock in the morning for a surf, and I only need to go for an hour or whatever before the kids get up and can do those things. But you have to find something for yourself. You have to find that balance. Whilst you're in camp, you need to find something that you can do as you release, whether it's the gym, it's a bit of exercise, it's a podcast, it's a book, whatever it looks like, and then you have to find what it is for you at home as well. When you can do that, you don't get to that level of that it's just work, work, work. It's that balance. So, yeah, find that thing that you love and do it more regularly. You'll go a long way to enjoying what you're doing more.
Thank you. I love that. It's all about putting on your me time boots, isn't it?
Massively.
As Steel Cap Sisters would say, yeah. It's huge, and it's really something that we can forget. I haven't got time for that. I haven't got time to do the thing that I really like to do, So it's a very important message, I think. Thank you for sharing that. Yes, make the time. So in closing, do you have anything else that you're super excited about right now that you'd like to share with us?
Yeah, I'm super excited coming into next year because I am wanting to get out to sites and actually, share with companies and share my message from a different point of view. I don't believe anyone's sharing it from the same angle that I like to share. You obviously are doing lots of things similar, and there's lots of people out there doing their own ways. And I'd love to see how everyone could do something together as well. That would be amazing.
That'd be awesome. Yeah.
That would be amazing. But yeah, look, have big dreams in coming into 2021 to be able to really share that message loud and clear and widely to help those families out there. And this year has been so tough for so many, and it's I'm sure there'd be a lot of people out there reconsidering what their FIFO journey looks like and what their structure looks like going forward. And if there's anyone out there, it doesn't have to be working or doing my program, and it simply can be a chat to and maybe some new ideas to help those people out there so they make it work for them. So yeah, there's lots in the pipeline, and I am excited about it because you just never know where it can go and those conversations that you can have. So, and those people that you meet and learn from them as well and go, oh shit, I didn't have it so bad after all.
Yeah. Yeah. And like everyone is so looking forward to next year. Be gone 2020. But I remember saying that, I was talking about this with Mum. I remember saying that about, I think, 2017, 2018, there was stuff going on. We're like, well, we'll just write that year off. But little did we know about this year. So surely it's got to improve. But I think that it has been a really big time for everyone to reassess and reflect and just look at the things that they're doing. I know a lot in my life has changed this year because of COVID, a few forced changes, and it's worked out better for me where I'm at. So obviously it hasn't for a lot of other people as well, and we just really hope that the world gets this sorted real fast and everyone can get back on track. Yeah, and bring on 2021, and hopefully you will be out on site somewhere soon and people can, be sitting there and go, I remember watching him on Mad Mumzie's Facebook page. Hopefully.
For sure. I'd love to get out there and meet some people and share a bit more and, help them in some way, because so many people gave me the time of day and the opportunities to make my journey a success, as hard as it was in periods of that. And without those people, I wouldn't be able to get to share my message. So if I don't share that, then that would be selfish. And, people need to understand that you're going to have tough times, but you can make it easy for yourself, and you can certainly turn it around and still make it a success. So never give up.
Oh, I love that. What a great way to finish. Never give up. Where can people get in touch with you, Paul?
Yeah,
What's
there's
the best way?
the Successful FIFO Families group on Facebook. It's only a fairly new group, so starting to build that up. So you're welcome to come and join us there. My website is just www.paulsmithcoach.com. Very simple.
I'll share all the links to you in the show notes, madmumzie.com/beers74. So, and because, well, you know, you're doing so much and I want to help you as much as I can. And so we're all intertwined, us lot. We're all helping each other, it seems. And it's really good. And because we're all doing it, we've all got the right why, you know, I believe.
And we're all doing it differently, but we can't also do it alone. There's so many people out there that just need to hear a different message or the same message from a different person. And
that's right.
That's the most important thing for people out there. If my message doesn't resonate, go and find someone's message that does, because someone will be sharing what you need to hear, and it may just be what you need to hear today. And that's the most important thing.
Oh, that's gold. And because I know there's a lot of people that don't resonate with me, Mad Mumzie, bloody drinking beer and all that, like they're a bit whatever for that. You know, I'm a bit out there, and there's other people that aren't. They're a bit more, I don't want to put names on things, but exactly what you said, how we resonate with different people. It's like diets. We all know what we have to do, but I need to hear it from this person. I'm really relating to how they're helping to motivate me to make change. And I feel like that's what we're all doing in all the different ways, so that people can try us all out and see which one or all of us might fit, you know. Does any of that make sense? Oh, there was a bit of a rant.
Yeah, it does, but it's no one needs to think that they're broken either, because sometimes all we need is to shift the perspective just slightly to get a totally different result. So never feel that you're in such a place that it's unachievable, because you'll hear the right message and you'll be able to shift that couple of millimeter, and then you'll be on your way back to achieving what you want to achieve. And it is as simple as that, but you just have to find that what works for you.
Beautiful. Just a couple of little tweaks. That's all we need sometimes, isn't it? A couple of tweaks. All right, on that note, if you're ready, we might say goodbye now, because I know we could chat all day, and I have been known to. All the links we discussed in this episode are at madmumzie.com/beers74. And thank you so much, Paul, for coming on the podcast, and my first ever live podcast episode. So for those of you listening, I'll leave this little bit in so that you know this was a video on Facebook out there to the world. No editing, but the podcast will have some editing in there. So my shit bits will be taken out. Thank you. And I really appreciate you coming on the podcast and sharing everything that we do. My sister and I, Hard Hat Mentor, Steel Cap Sisters, you've been one of our champions for a long time, and we really appreciate that. So hopefully this helps to share all of the good things that you're doing as well. And thank you to the people that have been commenting and saying how great job we've done, Paul. So that's good. That's good. Thank you.
Cheers. Bye.
Thank you so much for still being here at the end of this epic episode. I know there were a few audio glitches there which came about because it was a Facebook Live and it's a long story, but there was an echo. But hopefully my decision to put it out there anyway, the best that I could, was worth it for you. Remember, you can head to the Mad Mumzie Facebook page, look for videos, and you can watch us actually record that episode live. And we would love to see your comments in there as well. Join the conversation. Thank you so much. And until next time, stay safe, be real, be special, and have fun, for we only live once. Cheers. And please share with your mates.